Tonight on the fifth chapter, Tigers opening day is just 3 days away and none of the team's top prospects are on the roster. That includes Casey Mize. Savvy move or another dumb decision by Al Avila. Slippery fingered tight end Eric Ebron is at it again. Not dropping passes, but attacking fans and the media on social media. Who did the king of drops attack this time? And America's top infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci will throw out the first pitch at Thursday's nationally televised Yankees-Nationals game. Who should get the honor at Comerica Park's first game? Join the conversation by commenting live on YouTube and Facebook Live. This is the fifth chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman. He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the fifth chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the fifth chapter. And welcome to the fifth chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 21. Dennis, are you ready for 5 more fantastic chapters?
I'm about as ready as an Astros batter's ready to get plunked in the back like they did twice tonight. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, wasn't it 2 plunks to the back plus Jose Altuve got plunked on the forearm or the elbow?
Yeah, get ready. I mean, that was not one of the teams that they're going to see because it was Kansas City. It was in the Central, but get ready. What happens there for the Astros with this 60-game season? Over and under on hit batsmen, 70.
Yeah, that's a good point because obviously the Astros aren't going to face the Royals during this season, so the Royals figure this is our one and only shot, unless they make the playoffs, our one and only shot to take out the Astros, to hit them with some pitches, and they did it. And I think in one of those pitches, they went after George Springer's head and just missed. So the only thing we're going to miss as baseball fans would be the fans' ability to boo the Astros and to jeer them and cheer them when they do get hit.
Yeah, well, I saw something before we get into the first chapter that you could send your audio boos in through an app. I don't know if they're actually going to pipe it in through the stadium or that's just going to be through the TV or radio or something. But, I know we're going to get to that coming up. I'll send some boos Al Avila's way.
Yeah, well,
and Chris Illich.
I have a feeling that if the teams have the opportunity to play boos after the home team made a mistake, they'll choose not to do that. They'll just pipe in the ambient crowd noise. But thank you to everyone who is watching on YouTube and Facebook Live, and also to those who are listening via the podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. If you want to download this episode, it will be available at around midnight. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your comments via the live stream on either Facebook or YouTube right there on the side. Let's take a look at today's book. As you can see in the second chapter, we've got NFL negotiations continuing with the NFLPA as 95 players have already tested positive. Are they going to go through the same kind of disputes that Major League Baseball went through? How about this? In the third chapter, slippery-fingered tight end Eric Ebron might not be in Detroit, might not have been here for several years, but he's back at it again. We'll tell you who he's attacking now. In the fourth chapter, Dr. Anthony Fauci is going to be throwing out the first pitch of the Major League season when he throws out the pitch in D.C. tomorrow for the Yankees-Nationals game. Who should throw out the first pitch for the Tigers at Comerica Park? And in the fifth chapter, one of Dennis's favorite games, man, woman, or child. You excited about man, woman, or child, Dennis?
Yeah, for people that are just tuning in, I'm not excited about that game. I don't do very well. I've never won in it, but every week when we get ready to discuss these chapters, and I always put an extra one in there, Chapman's always like, what about man, woman, or child? What about it?
People like to guess along with you.
They do like to do that. I'm taking all suggestions and roll with me because they come in after you already give the answer sometimes. You'll have to get in quick.
All right, Dennis, let's head to the first chapter. And that takes us to the Detroit Tigers. We are, and to Major League Baseball, we're 2 days away from the start of the season. And we are 3 days away from the start of the Detroit Tigers season. Today, they are in Cincinnati for a preseason game. I'm not sure how that went. I believe I saw that they hit back-to-back or back-to-back-to-back home runs if you were watching that stream today. But yesterday, they made some news because they made some cuts. No surprise that guys like Alex Faedo and Isaac Paredes, Travis Demeritte, Spencer Torkelson, and Riley Green didn't make the team. I was a little bit surprised that Frank Schwindel didn't make the team because he was hitting well in some of those inter-squad games. A big question, though, that a lot of Tigers fans had was about the big three pitching prospects of Matt Manning, Casey Mize, and Tariq Skubal. They wanted to know which one of those three would replace Jordan Zimmerman on the roster because Zimmerman went down on the 45-day IL with a forearm issue. It didn't look like Skubal was going to get the nod because he didn't participate in much of the summer camp. Manning had been struggling, and Mize, according to the reports from those who had watched all the spring or the summer camp games, was arguably the best pitcher on the staff. And as it turns out, the answer was that none of those players would make the roster. It looks like Tyler Alexander or Daniel Norris will be in the rotation along with Nova, Fulmer, Turnbull, and the ace, Matt Boyd. And that's despite the fact that Ron Gardenhire, as recently as last week, was publicly calling for Mize to make the team. But when you see something like that, after hearing that Mize had pitched so well, you wonder, well, did it have something to do with service time and wanting to get an extra year of eligibility, or I guess give Mize one more year of team control before he hits free agency? Well, I'll put a tweet up on the screen so that those of you out there can see it. This is from Rod Beard of the Detroit News, typically covers the Pistons but was covering the Tigers, and he tweeted out yesterday, Tigers GM Al Avila says service time wasn't a consideration in assigning Casey Mize to the taxi squad. Wasn't a consideration. So that's what Al Avila said, but Dennis, are you buying that? And when you see that the top prospects didn't make the team, including Casey Mize, was that a smart decision?
Well, first of all, good luck to Rod teaming up with Mike Valente on the radio. I'm going to look forward to that. But no, I know nobody believes that the Tigers sent Mize down to Toledo because he wasn't ready. This has everything to do with service time, but it also has everything to do with just where this franchise is at. And I heard about their plan, and this is all, we're not going to go against the plan. What, are they going to slow play him next year too and get an extra year of service time because they're going to suck next year? You know, one thing is a baseball fan, you get a little romantic in the preseason, the summer camp or whatever, and you think, hey, especially in a 60-game season, maybe, and with this team, they could go 30-30. You could actually watch meaningful baseball. I know this. This is what I suspect. And, you know, I'm going to say, like, this is nothing against Chris Ilitch, but it really feels like this. If Mike Ilitch was still alive, Casey Mize would be up here, and he would be pitching with the team, like Justin Verlander was in 2006. When the Tigers only won those 43 games in, 2003, Ilitch was mad. And he went out there and he threw a bunch of money at Maglio Ordonez and Pudge Rodriguez, and he started playing big boy baseball and used the blueprint of the Yankees and the Red Sox. And now we got to hear about, we're going to stick to our plan and we're not going to bring Casey because the Tigers suck. They're not putting their best team out of the field. They're playing for the future. And if you like, you know, slow playing it, why don't you slow play it next year too? Because they aren't going to be any good. It just really blows. You know, you look forward to the first week of baseball. That's the time that all eyes are going to be on the Tigers, and they're not fielding their best team. And what that does is it tells everybody in that clubhouse that they don't want to win this year. Nobody's behind them, and they're throwing this one away, and they would rather be in first than even get close to 500, and that's sad.
I agree with a lot of what you said, and I thought that was actually a great point when you mentioned that if Mike Ilitch was still around, he probably would have put Casey Mize on the roster and how angry he was after the 2003 season. But I'm okay with the Tigers not putting Casey Mize on the opening day roster, and I'm not angry like you are, but I will be AAA, and he doesn't get hurt like he did last year, and we see him not make the team in the first week of August, if we don't see him make the team at all, or if he does make the team, it's not until September, then I will share your anger. But I'm okay with him missing one major league start.
Well, hey, how about this? Now you're frozen on the screen here, so I don't know if you could refresh or do something about that. But I'll tell you this, that if you want to go out, there you go, and put the best team out on the field and have your team all rowing in the right direction, put the guys out there that deserve it. Now, if they get out there and halfway through this season, this team has only won 3 or 4 games and they completely suck and it's a miserable season, then you know what? At that point, you can go ahead and you can take Mize and skip a start and send them down to the minors, and you can still get that service time and kick it forward. You have the ability to do that. The worst case scenario in having him stay up for the whole year is that if he comes out and pitches lights out and the Tigers look good and then they're compelled to keep him up, well, hey, that's worth it. That's what I want to see. So,
I'd like to see him up too.
I think the Tigers tripped up here by going out there and taking the easy way out. Really, it's just a signal where the organization is at, what they think about their team, and what they think about the season. Do it again next year, then. Let's keep playing this game. Let's go for another pick.
What if it's just one start? What if it's just one start, and then on July 30th, July 31st, August 1st, Casey Mize is on the team? Would you be okay if he comes up? No,
because it's about what this means. They could have done that in September. Bring him up right off the bat because he deserves it. And then if the thing is going sideways, well, then you get to September and you say, hey, this thing is not looking. We wanted to go in and compete and wanted to give everybody a chance. And at this point, you can see, we're looking up at the standings. We're going to skip a start or two, and you're going to go down to the minors, and they can still get that service time. This way, for the beginning of the season, you're just, flushing the toilet on the start of the year, and you're telling Tiger fans there's no reason to tune in.
The Tigers are not going to be one game away from making the playoffs, and if they do make the playoffs, it likely won't be because of one game. There have to be a lot of crazy things that happen. And if they do miss the
playoffs... It's a signal, though, Chap. It's a signal to the rest of the team. You're going out there, and you're saying, look, we're playing the long game.
Yes.
We don't believe in this team. We don't believe that you should have the best players available. We're pinching pennies here, and that's what we're doing. And
I'm okay with that.
We don't want you to win. In fact, this is a signal and a direct message to this team is don't go out there and we don't need you to go out there and play hard. This is a spring training. We would rather have you lose all these ball games than come anywhere close to winning 30 games. And you know what? After losing 114 last year, I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired of it.
Look at it this way.
They can play a 60-game season.
You could look at it like this. Tyler Alexander will make a spot start in one of the first 5 games of the season, and then Casey Mize can take his spot in the rotation. If that's what happens, I'm okay with it. If, on the other hand, you got Casey Mize still there in the middle of August, still there at the end of August, or something like that, or if he comes up, they throw him in the bullpen after Tyler Alexander has given up 4 runs in the first 4 innings of his first start, then we've got an issue. But I'm not going to sit here and rip. There's a lot of reasons to rip Al Avila because he's a terrible general manager. But if he only skips Casey Mize for 1 start in order to give the Tigers 1 extra year of control, I'd be okay with that. I will say this, though. When it comes to not caring about what you got going on in the rotation, you look at the rest of the rotation. I know that there's some potential in Turnbull and Boyd, but they're not terribly exciting pitchers because they give up a whole bunch of home runs and runs as a whole. Nobody cares about Tyler Alexander, who I just mentioned, and Ivan Nova is a Detroit Tiger for a reason. Nobody else wanted him. Some people are optimistic about Daniel Norris because he was decent last year at the end of the year, throwing 3 innings at a time. I think he's just a long reliever, and I think that the guy that most fans are excited to see, who's going to be on the opening day roster in terms of pitchers, is Michael Fulmer. After that, I want to see the prospects when they are ready, and I agree with you that it appears that Casey Mize is ready. I do wonder about Matt Manning because it appeared that he was getting hit around by the Detroit Tigers in inter-squad games. Tariq Skubal missed most of summer camp with an undisclosed illness, which might have been COVID-19. If he gets on track, and pitches like he did last year in the minors, I'd like to see the Tigers bring him up. But those other two, Manning and Skubal, they need to prove themselves down in Toledo first. Mize, just stay healthy. Give 5-6 good innings in an intra-squad game over the weekend, and then I think he's ready to go. But we're definitely not going to see your boy Torkelson, and we're not going to see Green at all this year.
No, I think you're probably right about that. You know, Torkelson, I was watching one of those live inter-squad games last week, and they had Tram on there talking with the guys about using his pancake glove with Torkelson and some of the plays over there that, you know, that he probably should make that he wasn't, and thinking about putting him out there at the hot corner as a rookie, that seemed like a recipe for disaster. So I think he's just going to get the reps over there at third. So, you know, in a way that's disappointing, but you understand it because of the position switch over there, even though, you know, all the guys I'm excited to see are not on this team. It's like, you know what? I saw Tyler Alexander and Cisnero in September last year, and it was painful. I hate soccer. I'd rather watch soccer than watch Cisnero out there on the mound again. And it seems like that's what we're
Gregory
serving up.
Soto.
I've seen enough of him too.
Yep.
You know, I'm tired of that, and we're going to get a healthy dose of that for the first 2 weeks. And this team, you know, is going to be like 2-9, and then they're going to be like, oh, hey, here's Casey Mize for you, and everybody's going to be like, oh, what? Casey Mize?
Well, but look at the bright side. They can start to tank for Kumar Rocker.
Yeah, or Leiter, his teammate. That's right. You know, tank for those guys, tank for the Vandy players. And then next year they can push all these guys down the road again and save another year of service time. You know, they don't have to pitch Mize till 2022. There'll be a lockout that year. We're not going to see him till 2024. If Chris Ilitch has his way, he's going to say, you're not going to see Casey Mize till 2024.
If these guys are still in AAA for all of 2021, I would say that says more about Manning, Mize, Skubal, and some of these other guys than it says about the Detroit Tigers. Because if they're going out there, they're winning the AAA Cy Young, they're leading the Mud Hens to a championship next year, assuming they have minor league baseball, fans are going to be irate, and we might see more fans from Detroit in Toledo to watch Mud Hens games than to watch Tigers games. If this is just a one start or a 1 week issue, I'm cool with it. That's not certainly the issue when it comes to Green and Torkelson, but when it comes to Mize, if it's just one start, I think fans should be fine with it. If it's more than that, then it's time to unleash your inner Fithian.
Yeah, well, DJ didn't like your comment on going after Nova. He said there was a lot of hate in your comment.
When you're a Detroit Tiger and you sign as a free agent, odds are that means nobody wants you, or perhaps you decided that you wanted to go to that team, to the Detroit Tigers, because you wanted to get traded away to a contender during the middle of the season. I think that's what's going to happen with a guy like C.J. Cron, who, based on the intra-squad games, is going to be one of the top 5 home run hitters in the American League this year.
Keith on the live chat says, hey, he likes the slow-mo chap on YouTube. Well, all right. It's probably best that we go to chapter number 2 after all of that, unless you have something else that you wanted to add.
Let's turn the page.
Turn the page. Sounds good to me. And we get to the National Football League. Yesterday they had meetings with the NFL and the Players Association, and they came out of that. And they said that they had agreed on some health and safety protocols. They had looked at the economics, and we found out, you know, that they went to 2 preseason games. Then they were down to 1. The players didn't want the 1, and the NFL relented. And they said, look, no preseason games for 2020. What do you think of where the NFL's at about, a week away till everybody has to report till training camp?
Well, I don't think we're going to have any trouble starting the season on time if coronavirus isn't an issue, and obviously coronavirus is an issue. I don't think that labor negotiations between the NFL and the NFLPA are going to be a problem. The issues right now that they've got the preseason out of the way, seem to be the ramp-up period, padded practices, the ability to opt out during the season and how much money you would get if you opt out during the season, and then, of course, testing. It looks like they've come to an agreement on testing, which is that the players wanted to be tested every single day. The owners didn't want to do that, but I guess for the first 14 days, they're going to be tested every single day. And after 2 weeks, it's going to go down to every other day, as long as the positive test rate is below 5%, which seems like a pretty high number if you ask me. In terms of the ramp-up period, the reason that they want more of a ramp-up period is because obviously they're not going to be playing the preseason games. And by the way, under the NFL's plan to have one preseason game, the Detroit Lions' sole preseason game would have been against the Dolphins in Miami. So definitely don't want to have the preseason, for those of you that were wondering. But without having OTAs, without having mini camps, without having preseason games, they want a longer period to ramp up because they haven't had this ability to not just learn the playbook, but to get acclimated with their teammates. And I guess what the plan is for 7 days to get acclimated once you get to the team, and then 18 days to ramp up with getting to padded practices and things like that. But once they get that under control, I think that they should be fine. The players have gotten the owners to cave on when it comes to daily testing. They got the owners to cave on preseason games. And the only issue that they would have left would be money, because I guess the owners want the players or they want all teams to get rid of $40 million of player salary for this season, and the players want to spread that out over maybe a decade or something like that. I don't think that's going to prevent them from starting the season. I think they'll be fine as long as there's not some monster second wave or outbreak before the season starts. We're not going to see them carve into the season like we saw with Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it was one thing, though. I was surprised that I didn't see anything coming out of that, because last week they were talking about even if the NFL plays one game, all of the players' salaries are guaranteed. I know you're talking about that escrow and spreading everything out, but I would be surprised if they had that deal intact, if they didn't come up with something. Maybe they can get some insurance or something if the season goes sideways and they have to suspend it or whatever else. But that seems like a huge risk for the owners going into it. If they don't have any fans and they have to pay the full freight, and after 2 weeks, they have get shut down. So we'll see what happens there. I thought there's two things. One is that when it comes down to the exhibition games, I think that they can still go and satisfy these TV networks. They could have probably two. Just look at the Lions. They could have two inter-squad scrimmages where they could have an hour pregame and an hour postgame, and then some kind of hour where they televise practice. And in that chunk, the team would agree to go through an inter-squad scrimmage. They're going to have to hit there and come up with some semblance of football. It might even be better than some of the preseason stuff, and people are so starved, I bet it would get pretty good ratings. That would be one thing, and I'm sure that they'll do that. I mean, that's not that tough to pull off or even think about. So
yeah, they could do it for baseball. They can do it for football, and fans are watching the inter-squad baseball games.
Well, that's right. You can even put it on major television. So I think they'll do that. The other thing that I wonder about, and I know it comes down to the different governors, like in New Jersey and in New York. New York said that they're not going to allow the Mets or Jets to have any fans. And as you know, Miami, Stephen Ross, he's talking about having 25, 30, even more at his football games once they go off. That doesn't seem very fair in the AFC East if you're the Jets and you bring in the Dolphins and you don't have one fan in the stands, and then you got to go travel down to Miami. They got 30,000 people screaming at you. I mean, how fair is that? I think.
And they're breathing coronavirus. Go, come on, Dolphins. All the fans right behind the Jets bench, just like breathing on them, exhaling as much as they can. Yeah, I would assume that the NFL, and I don't know if the players are arguing for this or not, but I would assume that the players would want to have a uniform policy on allowing fans in games. And really, that comes down to if there's one governor from an NFL state that says no fans, then all teams would have to abide by that, because you can't have, you look at California, for instance, they've got, 3 teams now that the Raiders have left. They've got 3 teams there. And if those teams are not allowed to have any fans, and then they go to, let's say the 49ers go to play the Cardinals, and they've got 10,000 fans, 20,000 fans there. That's not going to be fair. And California's been one of the states that's been hardest hit recently, and one of the states that's been starting to crack down and close up. So I would think that I don't know if that's an issue that the players would want to be concerned about. I think they're more concerned about their compensation and their ability to get tested. But that's definitely something that should be looked at before the season starts.
Yeah, if Governor Whitmer says no fans, it's up to her, right? That's going to be down to how many people go to the football games. She caps it at, like New Jersey said for Rutgers football, they can only have 500 fans. If Whitmer only says 500 fans, at Ford Field, and then you go to Green Bay and, their policy, they got an open air stadium, they're saying, hey, we're going to fill it up to 40,000. That doesn't seem very fair for the Lions, but,
no.
Going in.
Yeah, one issue that I do have is with regards to the testing, because I know that the players, I guess, got the owners to compromise or to cave on doing testing every single day for the first 14 days. And then if it's under a 5% positivity rate, they'll go to every other day. I understand that it can be a little bit costly to test, and the more testing that you do, the more expensive that it gets. But let's not forget that these owners are all billionaires. They've got lots of money, and it should be in the owner's best interest to test every single day, because if they do it 3 times a week like they were suggesting, or every other day, then you've got 4 days per week where an infected player could infect someone else without them knowing whether that person is positive. If you quarantine that player quickly, he might infect maybe one other player before the test the next day. But if a player, let's say the Lions play the Dolphins or the Lions play the Buccaneers, a team from Florida, and because they play a Florida team, a player gets coronavirus on a Sunday. They test negative on Monday because there's not a detectable amount of coronavirus in that player's system, and there isn't a detectable amount until Tuesday. But they don't get tested again until Wednesday. In the meantime, they're breathing coronavirus on their teammates and things like that. They get tested on Wednesday, but because of coronavirus testing results, it doesn't come out instantaneously. They don't get their results until Thursday afternoon. During that time, who knows how many teammates and coaches they could have affected, as opposed to just quarantining 1 or 2 players. You might have to quarantine 5 or 6. And obviously, if you're a team owner and you want to win, you know that the healthier you are, the better chance you have to win. Not just with injuries, like you look at Matthew Stafford last year with the broken back, that the Lions lose him, they don't win a game, but also due to coronavirus. If you have 2 guys out, perhaps you can win. If you've got 10 guys out due to a positive coronavirus test, you're just going to lose the game.
Yeah, well, it's all getting ready to hit the fan. They go to training camp next week. I was listening to Peter King yesterday. He took a tour of the Vikings facility, and he got tested, and he was talking about this fob that everybody has to wear and what will happen if you don't know anything about contact tracing, which I didn't know a whole lot about. He was talking about what will happen when they get a positive test, and then you can find out where this particular left tackle has been. And I was thinking, if it's a left tackle and it's a practice, he's going to be everybody within 6 feet of him. I don't know. That seems like when we do get to Tuesday and you're going to get into training camp, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But then, of course, it's all about who's going to be able, survive, just be able to. You always talk about next man up. How much are they going to expand the rosters? And then when the season starts, man, the day before, just who's going to be eligible to play, who's going to be out there, who's going to get pulled, all of those different things. It's like, it feels like that the NFL, that they're hanging on by a thread here. Same thing with college football and high school football. I don't know. You just talked about how much it costs to test all the time. I don't know. How is high school football going to test all the time? College, I think they're going to be all right.
I haven't heard any plan from either Big Gretch or the MHSAA on if they're going to be testing high school students. I mean, they're not paid athletes. They're not getting. Well, yeah, they're going to take temperatures, but I mean, what if they practice in August on a 95-degree day? They're going to have a high temperature. I don't know how that's going to work out, and it's obviously not going to be mandatory testing because I mean, are the school districts going to pay for it? Because if the school districts are paying for it, that's going to come out of the taxpayers' money. And there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, don't raise my taxes to test high school swimmers and football players and soccer players to see if they can play. Some will just say, let them play. And some will just say, don't let it happen. Maybe if you're a private school, then you can afford to have the athletes tested. But then you're going to have to worry about your tuition going up. I think that's a very complex issue when it comes to high school sports. The one place where you could see it is a place where high school sports, and in particular football, means a whole lot, and that's in Texas, where they got, $15 million high school football stadiums. But in Michigan, we're not going to do that. I'm 99% certain of that.
How are you going to justify it in high school if you have another fall sport and you're just using all your tests on your football players, and then I don't know what else is in fall, like girls basketball or field hockey or something? They're like, no, we got to save all of our tests for the football players. Like,
none of them are revenue sports.
Yeah, well, it's the kind of same thing in college. I mean, football, of course, is a revenue sport in college football, but if you got other fall sports, I mean, you got Title IX and everything, and you're just going to say, well, we're going to take all the tests. Football is more of the high-risk sport, which it is, but we're taking all the tests and we're sending them to the football players. That's a sticky situation.
Yeah, there could be some lawsuits filed by female athletes if that's the case.
There's going to be a lot of lawsuits being filed. That's a great prediction.
Yeah, if you're a lawyer, it's time to get those business cards out there. Make sure your website's looking good.
Yeah.
One other issue.
I would be out there on the first day of high school football if I was a lawyer. August the 10th. Here you go.
Yeah, go out there with your mask and gloves on and your hazmat suit, handing out business cards. 1-800 COVID-19 suit or something like that.
Get out there with your mask, with your lawyer number right on the front.
Yes.
1-800 call Sam right on the front of your mask.
Yeah. One other issue that I had with the NFL's testing policy is 5% seems like a pretty high number, where if they're at 5%, then they would continue to test every single day. But if they're at 4.9% positivity rate, then they're good. They can back off to every other day. The NBA made news in their bubble either yesterday or today when they announced that 0% of their players tested positive, which suggests that their bubble is working. I was saying that on July 3rd, Major League Baseball announced that of the 3,185 tests, there was a 1.2% positivity rate. That seems pretty low. If the NFL's positivity rate is 4 times higher than that at 4.8%, then the NFL is going to say, we can cut back on testing. I think that they should cut back on testing, maybe if they can stay under 2%. I was doing some math. Apparently the rosters to start training camp are going to be at 80 players. So that means that if 31 teams have exactly 4 players test positive and one team has 3 players test positive, then they're going to back off. That seems like a pretty high number to be backing off, and they need to lower that. You don't want a situation where it's okay to have 2 or 3 players test positive per week and they're only going to be doing it every other day.
Yeah, I'll take. You're saying 3 players per team. You think it should, they should have 1 per team or 2?
Well, it's just the overall percentage because, I mean, it based on 80 players, then 5% of 80 is 4 players. Now, once you start cutting back to a 53-man roster, then you're talking about 2.64 players or 2.6 players, so 2 or 3 players are allowed to get affected per week without them ramping up to a test every day. It would seem to me that if you've got a 4% positivity rate, that your coronavirus protocols are not working. And if it's 4% and you're allowing those people every other day to continue to infect their teammates and their coaches, that doesn't seem like a positive.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? That seems like a pretty low number to me. But when I hear you talk about it, what would satisfy you? 2.5%.
I think 2%.
2%.
Well, especially when you look at the NBA with their bubble are at 0%. Major League Baseball without a bubble is way under 2% at 1.2%. Now, if these numbers are at those Major League Baseball numbers at 1.5%, 2%, then this discussion is moot. But to sit around here and if we're 3-4 weeks from now and we've got a 4.8% positivity rate in the NFL, then that means that we've got 3.8 to 4 players per team that have a positive test rate. And there might be teams like the Detroit Lions in a relatively safe state that have 0 players positive. But then you have a team like the Cardinals that have 7 or 8 players positive, and they're only going to test them every other day.
Well, what it says to me is that this thing is holding on by a thread. If they do plow ahead and they are able to get these teams on the field and actually play football, what's going to be the biggest factor in deciding who's the Super Bowl champ is they're going to be the other team. I don't know. This it's you try to be realistic about this. We're hoping it's all about to go down. I mean, that's it. We're getting ready for baseball. Training camp's opening up next week. The NBA getting ready to launch their restart. The NHL right after that. So we've been waiting for this. We've been talking an awful lot about it, seeing all these teams put everything into play. But you know, I was watching college football live, and right after the last segment, they were like, coming up next, Major League Soccer. They were all coming off the bus wearing masks. They've been playing, so
they're in a bubble.
Okay, they're in a bubble. They weren't when they walked off that van or the bus.
Yeah, I believe they're in a bubble, and obviously the NFL is not having any sort of bubble. Everybody's going to be in their separate markets, living at home, things like that. So it would appear that they're at higher risk.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you go home and anybody in your family is going out anywhere else, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster.
All right, Dennis, let's turn the page to the 3rd chapter, and let's bring up a name that we haven't talked about in a while because he hasn't been a Detroit athlete in a while, and that is slippery-fingered tight end Eric Ebron. Again, he's a Pittsburgh Steeler now, but we know that when he was in Detroit, Ebron was known for doing 2 things on a regular basis. 1, he dropped a lot of passes due to his very slippery fingers. Number 2, he loved to attack people on social media. That included Lions fans, and it also included members of the fake news media. So what's he doing now? Well, yesterday, he didn't drop any passes, but that's because he wasn't playing, because you know that he would have dropped passes. If he was playing Madden, he would be dropping passes. But he did attack 2 members of the dishonest media, and it started last night when Zach Herrig, a reporter from Fox 17 in West Michigan, sent out this tweet, and I'll put it up on the screen so that everybody can see his tweet. And it says, sums it up perfectly with a clown face, and it's him retweeting one of Eric Ebron's most disappointing moments as a Detroit Lion, where he actually didn't drop a pass. You can see right there he's circled, and I'll play the video for you. There's no sound, but you can see he lines up, Stafford hands the ball off, he whiffs on the block, and then he just stands there. Back to the field. Oh, wait a second. Oh, the play was still going on, my bad. And he continues to mope around, and as the video continues, they'll show a replay of slippery-fingered tight end once again loafing on this play. They circle him, whiffs on the block, quits on the play, other player to block right there, doesn't see it, and then his running back gets swarmed. So, obviously, an atrocious moment for slippery-fingered tight end Eric Ebron. How does he respond? He responds right down there by tweeting, by commenting, "No one knows you," with laughing while crying emojis. And look, I've never heard of this guy, Zach Herrig, in West Michigan, but I don't live in West Michigan, so the people out there probably do know him. But that's not where slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron versus the fake news media and the fans ended last night. One of the things Ebron likes to do is talk to random people, and he did that yesterday on Twitter, and I'll put that tweet up for you as well. And this comes after Zach Herrig made his comment, and he responded to a guy like Brad by saying, "Bass Stafford, you sensitive bums," talking about Lions fans. "I love Stafford. Y'all, again, bums, the reason no one wants to be there." Laughing while crying emojis. "I hope we don't have a season so y'all can finally see a winning one." Talk about that for ripping Lions fans. But slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron versus the media wasn't done there, because that led a member of the Detroit media, 4-time Emmy Award winner Justin Wilting Rose, to get into the mix. And here's how his situation went down with slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron, if my Twitter will load up. Basically, Justin Rose retweeted the comment that Ebron put out there and said, "Childish ways continue. Attacking fans is never a way to go, ever. Pittsburgh," of course, Ebron is a Steeler now, "Pittsburgh will," I think he meant to say, he says, "Pittsburgh will weigh this guy alive." I think he meant to say, "Pittsburgh will eat this guy alive if he cries boo once." And slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron responds by saying, "Man, STFU," which means "shut the bleep up. Now I'm on you. They came at me for liking a tweet about me leading the league in touchdowns. I can't help what someone else say about you. You lame AF." That means you lame as expletive. "Put that on the news." So now slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron is trying to be the producer of a 4-time Emmy Award winner. And I believe that Rose responded one more time to slippery finger tight end Ebron. Yes, he did. He did, saying, "You've always got excuses. Just put the phone down and don't worry about what people say. Example, me not giving a lick." I think he wanted to say something else. "What you think about me, it's not hard if you are an adult." Dennis, when slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron left town 2 years ago, he was the most hated athlete in Detroit. He's been gone 2 years, and it appears nothing has changed. Fans still can't stand him. He's still going at fans and members of the media. How do you feel about slippery-fingered tight end Eric Ebron, and which Detroit athlete can you still not stand?
Well, Ebron's right at the top of that list. When he played here, obviously he didn't have any hands, but he didn't have any heart, and he didn't have the head for the game either. I mean, that was pretty obvious, and that was the disappointing part. And the other part is you just look at all of the players that were drafted around him that the Lions could have fallen into and taken, from Taylor Lewan, who's an outstanding left tackle with the Titans, or Aaron Donald, who's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, right down the line, there's all these players that were taken right behind Ebron. He ended up being a gigantic bust, but after he left here, I was like, good riddance, and all right, let's just going to forget about him. But he never stopped, going back to Detroit and challenging the media. I know he sent a tweet to you, and then it was too hard watching him with his Colts having those like 14 touchdowns and everything else. I was just like, that seemed very SOL. But this does too. It just kind of fits into Lions lore. Here's a guy who was here and it was picked, didn't work out at all, goes on and has success with the Colts, and now he can't stop mixing it up with the media. He was going at it with Sully today. Yes. Mike Sullivan, back and forth with some tweets there, and after a while, it's like he just enjoys. Some people enjoy people enjoy fighting. He's one of those guys. He didn't enjoy online.
Fighting for blocks against the Bears in that clip we just showed.
No, you're right about that. Some people like fighting on their computer, not so much in the streets or on the field.
Yeah, look, Zach Herrig of Fox 17, the guy who nobody's ever heard of according to slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron, is right, because Ebron is a clown. It's plain and simple. I can't think of any other player, any other pro athlete that does what he does. Now, maybe if I was in another city, I could think of one because I'd be more in tune with what goes on with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Is there a former Arizona Diamondback that does that? Or with the St. Louis Rams or the LA Rams?
There's different NBA players, like they have their burner accounts, like, you know, Kevin Durant, you know, he'll go at fans or something.
Yes,
and,
that's
you know,
true.
It's actually him, you know, and I think Russell Westbrook does that as well. I'm not sure. I know Durant's got the burner account, but,
Yes.
You know, I don't follow, like, I like Twitter, but I follow, like, Detroit sports fans. I don't follow, you know, some, but for the most part, you know, I don't really care what, you know, the athletes are tweeting out or anything else. And if it is something important, somebody will retweet them anyway. So I stay out of that. We do have some feedback, however.
Well, before we get to the feedback,
get
to the feedback, I just wanted to say that when you think about what he's done, when you think about how much of a clown he is and how no other athletes do what he does, this is a guy who was obviously drafted by a sorry organization in the same old Lions. He was a complete bust, like you mentioned, because he's a pass catcher who can't catch the ball. He responds by attacking fans and attacking the media, leaves to play for another team, sets records on the Colts, makes the Pro Bowl, and after doing so, he makes sure to stick it in the face of Lions fans. You mentioned that he was tweeting at me. Last year, I called him Slippery Finger tight end Eric Ebron, and he made sure to say, and I first of all, I didn't use at Ebron85, which means that he was actively seeking out my tweets, like who's tweeting about Eric Ebron. He was actually seeking out. But after I tweeted out Slippery Finger tight end Eric Ebron about something, he said, make sure that you say it's Pro Bowl Eric Ebron. Put some respect on my name. And then I said Pro Bowl Slippery Finger tight end Eric Ebron. And then you said, make sure you say playoff winning Ebron too, because I won a playoff game. And obviously the Lions hadn't. So that was another shot. But then he does that to stick it to the Lions fan base. Is a complete bust in his second year with the Colts. Goes to the Steelers, and he's still responding to media members and fans from 2 teams ago. It's just ridiculous, and you know he's right there on the top of my list. And it's annoying, it's pathetic, it's also entertaining because he gives us a topic, he gives us a chapter on the 5th chapter, and he doesn't go away. It'd be funny if 20 years from now, when he's out of the NFL and there's a new social media platform to replace Twitter, if he's still going at it with former Detroit Lions or Detroit Lions fans and Detroit Lions media members. It's you just don't see that in sports.
Yeah, Chap, you're going to be 50 years old, and, you know, Ebron's going to be 49, and you're still going to be calling him out Slippery Finger Eric Ebron, and he's going to say, I can't even type. I shouldn't say that, you know.
Well, his fingers can stick on the phone real easily. He's got no problem typing in. Like for instance, I'll put up a tweet for you guys, and this is actually a really important tweet to show you just how much of a clown and just how pathetic Eric Ebron is. And this is a tweet, as you can see, that was sent on February 7th, 2016. So a little over 4 years ago at 9:25 p.m. And he tweeted, at @BChapSports, that's me on Twitter, can't wait to actually meet you, with a smiley face, heard a lot about you. And that was in response to me tweeting about players dropping the football during the Super Bowl. Why is this such a crazy tweet? Because, number one, I didn't tweet out at Ebron85, so he was actually searching for people that were tweeting about him. Second of all, as Dennis says, drops his phone. Second of all,
my dog's jumping around in here.
Get your dog out of there.
Earlier.
Okay. Second of all, at the time, I was on the air from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So how was he hearing about me? Because I know that as a Detroit Lions player, he wasn't up from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. listening to Sports Talk Radio. Third of all, anticipating meeting a media member? Who does that? And fourth of all, the tweet was sent at 9:25 on February 7th, 2016. What was taking place at that exact time, Dennis?
What date?
February 7th, 2016.
I don't know. The Super Bowl.
Yes, he was tweeting at me during the Super Bowl. First of all, that's the most important event in your profession. Why are you on Twitter searching for people that are tweeting about you? And second of all, If you're a millionaire athlete with all this money, you should be having so much fun at your party, even if you can't pay attention because you're drunk, that you don't have time to be searching on Twitter for who's tweeting about you. And instead, I don't know if it was during a boring TV commercial or the game was a blowout, he's getting on there, who's tweeting about me? Oh, this fake news member? I can't wait to meet you. What a joke.
Yeah, well, you're getting some entertainment out of it, and so are people with the feedback. Let's go to some of them first. Facebook. DJ saying the league will bend on everything until they get their money. Joey saying, I love Chap saying slippery finger tight end Eric Ebron over and over. Please don't stop that habit from the show. Then again, I don't have to worry about you dropping because you're not a slippery fingered tight end and Eric Ebron. Jerry says Ebron is a bum and obviously will never grow up. He should worry about fixing those stone hands and not worry about what people say to him. And a couple from Keith here who says, I know there's not much to talk about in sports, but I prefer to ignore the Eric Ebron news. He's not worth my effort. What a clown. And he's still so immature. Adding, I couldn't believe that pick. Hawkinson will be a bad pick too. No value at number 8, but I think he will work hard. Don't draft tight ends in the first round of the top 10. The Lions continue to do it. They've done it 4 times. Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing about taking Hawk. It was like, don't take Hawk at number 8. That was a bad idea. Everybody knew that was a bad idea at the time. The Lions didn't care.
Bad idea. Let's do it. We're all for it. Same old Lions.
Yeah. As I was like, we did it the first time. We're going to do it again. We're going to show you. Everything points to this being a bad pick, but we're going to go ahead and show everybody. Okay. All right.
Let's turn the page
Anything
to
else on slippery fingered tight end Eric Ebron?
Hey, if we got some comments that want to come in the next 10, 15 minutes, we'll get to those. But let's turn the page to the 4th chapter.
Yeah, that's where we get to Major League Baseball, which is going to start on Thursday with a pair of games. And they are going to have a celebrity throw out the first pitch to open up the Major League Baseball season. And it will be Dr. Fauci. Oh, I'm sure we'll be masked up. I don't think he'll go to his mouth before he goes to the pitch. But we'll see what he comes up with for his first pitch. But that just makes you think about when the Tigers, they're in Cincinnati to open things up. But when they do come back to Comerica Park, who should, if the Tigers have a ceremonial first pitch for the opening of the season, who should it be? Let's hear on feedback who you would have throw out the first pitch, and who would Brian Chapman pick to throw out the first ceremonial pitch at Comerica Park to start out the 2020 abbreviated season?
Well, first off, it's going to be weird because whenever you have a ceremonial first pitch, it's done in front of a crowd, and oftentimes that individual is a celebrity. Perhaps they're a movie star. Perhaps they're a new coach who's just signed to become the new coach of the Red Wings or whomever, or a free agent signing or a draft pick. Sometimes it's some other famous person, or maybe it's a war veteran, and the fans have the opportunity to cheer that person. Obviously, the only cheers they're going to have would be piped in cheering, because whoever's going to be throwing in that first pitch is going to be doing so in an empty stadium. I think that the best idea for someone throwing out the first pitch at Comerica Park, being that we were one of the original epicenters of the coronavirus pandemic back in March and April, would be somebody linked to the pandemic. Now, obviously, you're not going to have someone like Fauci, who's a Nationals fan and is old, travel all the way to Detroit to do that, or Dr. Birx. But I think perhaps a doctor or a nurse or a survivor or a combination. Because one thing that we have heard is that because there were so many people getting infected with coronavirus at these hospitals, particularly in Metro Detroit, particularly in Detroit, that doctors and nurses were getting coronavirus, and doctors and nurses were taking care of some of their coworkers. So I would like to see somebody, either a doctor or a nurse, who contracted coronavirus and was hospitalized and is now back to work throughout the first pitch. I think that'd be a very inspirational story. They could celebrate his or her work in his or her recovery.
Yeah, I think that's a nice sentiment. I would echo that. I would go that direction too. If not, I would go to Eric Ebron, or
he dropped the pitch.
Yeah, I don't know if you would be able to hang on. You wouldn't be able to hang on to the ball. That's true. Ebron, or I think, Governor Whitmer. You go out there. The one part, if you're a politician, we've seen whether it's mayors in the past, they get booed. Any politician is going to get here a smattering or a mixture of boos and cheers when they go out there. But you know what, Governor Whitmer, you don't have to worry about any boos. You can just get out there and throw it right down the middle, and thank everybody, and there you go. So I don't know if they're even going to have one, but if they do, I'm with you. It should be somebody that was on the front lines of COVID, and here in Detroit went above and beyond.
Yeah, I completely disagree with Big Gretch. I know that she's got a pretty good approval rating in the state of Michigan and things like that, and most people agree with the measures that she did to protect people of the state of Michigan, but a lot of people don't, and politicians are divisive figures. You could agree with the politician, but people that don't like Gretchen Whitmer might say, well, how about we bring in Bill Schuette, who lost to her in the election, or bring in the Speaker of the House or something like that, who was trying to help liberate Michigan and things like that. So I think that when you're talking about the first day of baseball at Comerica Park, you're trying to unify all Tigers fans. The last thing I want is somebody who's a big representative of one of the major political parties throwing out the pitch, because then what are you going to have? You're going to have folks saying, oh, I'm not going to support the Tigers. They're a whole bunch of liberals or something like that. I don't want sports to become political at all. I mean, I understand when you have a president throw out the first pitch, but that's a little bit different because they're supposed to unify the nation. And I get that perhaps you could try to unify the state, but I would prefer a non-politician to start off the season.
All right, you stay on the sidelines. Keith says he would pick Big Gretch, so there you go.
Okay, all right. I Big Gretch over someone who has been a coronavirus survivor.
Hey, I'm just reading the feedback. What do you want me to do?
Well, I understand that.
We are going to need the people's help here. I'm going to need the people's help. Get your fingers ready. Slippery fingers or not, get them on the keyboard and help me out during Chapman's game here.
Well, before we get to the game, let me just put up one other thing, because I did put out a poll yesterday asking people this question. If Anthony Fauci were to throw out the first pitch and you were in attendance, would you cheer or would you boo? Because Anthony Fauci's been kind of politicized recently. 78% said that they would cheer for Anthony Fauci, and he gets mostly positive reviews from the vast majority of people, but you see right there 22% said that they would boo a non-political scientist. Now, once again, you go to a political person like Big Gretch, who I believe is the co-chair of Sleepy Joe Biden's presidential campaign, there's going to be more than 22% that would boo. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Nothing like getting a little politics there yourself with some different names. Throw it out.
Well, this is 2020. We have nicknames. That's what we do now, right?
All right. Well, let's get to this fifth chapter.
Yeah, let's do so. And this is a game that we like to call Man, Woman, or Child. Dennis has struggled with this game many times in the past. But here is how Man, Woman, or Child works. I've got 5 headlines, and I will read the headline to Dennis, and he has to guess if that person is a man, a woman, or a child. And just so you know, a man is an adult 18 or older, a woman is an adult 18 or older, and a child can be a boy or a girl 17 or younger. Dennis, last time we played was a few weeks ago, and you were 0 for 3. You got to get 3 out of 5 right to win. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. First headline. Can't do that, boss. Individual says no to helping fallen 89-year-old man. Was that person a man, woman, or child? An individual who refused to help up an 89-year-old man.
Child.
It's happened in Freeport, Texas.
Oh, yeah. That's child.
You're going to say a child. And Dennis, you are incorrect. The answer is a man. The man was actually a FedEx driver. Story says a Ring doorbell camera recorded the exchange between the 89-year-old man and the employee. "Hello, help please," the man could be heard saying. "Give me a hand, I need to get up." "I can't do that, boss," the driver said from a distance. The man, who suffered from dementia, had been on the ground for 15 minutes. 10 minutes later, his daughter arrived to help him up. So, very mean-spirited FedEx driver. Maybe he was trying to protect himself from coronavirus, but very mean-spirited FedEx driver in Texas.
It's kind of like this particular chapter.
Wow. Well, get some right. Second headline. Individual stabs significant other after significant other farts in individual's face during arguments. Was the stabber a man, a woman, or a child?
Woman.
The arguments and the stabbing took place while they were watching TV. So you think a woman is more likely to get farted on and respond by stabbing?
It's a woman. Not really. I think it's probably. I'm going woman. That was just going with my first guess.
Dennis, you're correct. You're 1-1. It was 37-year-old Deborah Ann Burns of Florida who stabbed her 53-year-old boyfriend, Willie Butler. The story says Burns told cops they were fighting about cash when Butler got up to go to the kitchen and broke wind on her head. She confronted him and things turned ugly, with Butler allegedly throwing a knife at her, which missed. Burns reportedly picked it up and threw it back and hit him in the stomach. She ran outside before returning to hit him with a stick on the left arm. Cops arrived to find a bleeding Butler who was so drunk he could not give a statement. So, Dennis, you're 1-1.
Sounds like one of your stories about a Lyft ride.
That's right. And we do have story time coming up on Thursday. Third headline. North Kansas City individual hunts down thief who stole his or her car and steals it back. Was that individual who was carjacked and hit and then carjacked the car back a man, a woman, or a child?
A child that's 18 gets carjacked. I think that sounds like a child to me. Sounds like an 18-year-old. Gets his car jacked, wants it back, so jacks it back. I would think a man, a little bit older, would have a little bit more sense. I don't see a woman doing that, so I think it's between child and man, and I am going with child.
Let me see if this changes your opinion. Story says the individual tracked purchases on his or her credit cards as well as activity on his or her phone, which were in the car at the time of the carjacking.
No, the last time you tried to change my mind, I changed it and I had the right answer. So, no, I'm staying with child.
The answer is not child, and it's not your second guess man, it's woman. Danielle Reno said she got out of her car to get her daughter, and when she came back, her Toyota 4Runner was gone. After tracking her purchases and cell phone data for 48 hours, a gas station attendant said that the car thieves were going to Applebee's. Danielle got there before the car thieves. When the car thieves walked in, she walked out and re-stole her 4Runner and then called the cops. So you're 1-2, Dennis. You got to get the next two right to win.
All right, let's do it.
Fourth headline, individual caught stashing drugs in police station. Was that individual a man, a woman, or a child?
Child.
This happened in a Nebraska interrogation room where the suspect stashed the drugs in the ceiling.
That really could be any of the three. Let's be honest. I'm going to go child.
And Dennis, you are incorrect. The answer is a man. The name and the age of the person wasn't given, but the story says jailhouse video shows the man putting a chair on the table and then climbing on top of the table to try and hide the drugs. Officers walked in and caught him in the act, but thought he was just trying to escape. Police didn't see the drugs fall down to the floor. When another officer came to clean the room, she found the cocaine. So, Dennis, once again, showing why this is not exactly his favorite game, But you were a little bit better this time. You were not 0 for 3. You were 1 for 4.
Before we go, Keith on the feedback says, asking if we heard about Dwight Howard refusing to wear a mask and is against a vaccine. He continues to show his ignorance. I did see that. He was like, hey, all of this flying around or something. Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's, making a very smart statement. So I would agree with that, Keith.
Yeah, I heard about that too. Dwight Howard's always been kind of a goofball. He continues to be a goofball. It almost looks like what he was talking about a month ago with regards to not going to the bubble was more of a publicity stunt than anything. When he was on CNN talking about, I want to consider not playing basketball so that I can continue the fight for racial equality. So he's always been a goofball. This continues to be the case, and now he's putting himself, his teammates, and other athletes at risk by not putting on the mask.
Yeah, I did see the arena today. Lisa Salter was on ESPN. All the video looks like they've got a lot of video boards like surrounding the court. They've got some seats that are spaced out so other teams can come in and watch the teams that are playing. And they do have some broadcasters, but they're behind like bank glass, like you would go into a big plexiglass. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to get it going here in a couple days. And speaking of a couple days, Tigers minus Casey Mize, because this is a throwaway season. We will predict how many games the Tigers will win coming up on Thursday's show on the Fifth Chapter. We will see you then.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all